You know, anyone that's been watching this channel for any length of time has probably come to the conclusion that we get a lot of junk airsoft guns in here. And I'm not talking about like low quality, you know, guns that are just breaking at random, but more, you know, just the fact that anything mechanical eventually is going to reach the end of its lifespan. And then it's just, you know, you could probably fix it, but the cost and the time and effort that's taken into doing it is probably not worth it, and you could probably just go buy a new gun. But the flip side of that is that airsoft guns do cost a bit of money, and sometimes it's you know, worth it to find a new use for the gun, even though it's reached the end of its lifespan. We've done a number of things here. If you've watched the channel, you've seen we've created sort of a mini Airsoft Museum in here with all the different models that we've collected. We've even made an iron throne with all of the throwaway guns that we've had, and still I end up with piles of them, and I honestly don't have the heart to throw them out, you know, unless they're absolutely completely destroyed. So I've just come up with other ways of making use of the, you know, what's left of the guns. And my most recent project has been turning them into lamps, believe it or not. First I started off with, this is just a plain old Scorpion. I found this lamp at Goodwill, and I just sort of married the two together. The one thing I did that was kind of interesting is that I made it so that the cocking lever is attached to the light switch. It was a fairly simple process with this, since it's a, you know, not a far run, you know, for the pull chain to go to the cocking lever. You know, and I thought it was fairly clever, and a lot of people commented about it that they liked it. So I figured, you know, maybe I'll keep going with this sort of thing. And obviously there's no shortage of, you know, guns to use here for this sort of project. So the next one I came up with was using a high capo, or a 2011 type 1911, high capacity 1911, whatever you want to call it. This one is a little more interesting in that the slide, when you operate the slide or the cocking mechanism on it, that operates the light switch on the gun, which is even a little more intricate than running it on the outside like the Scorpion. So it makes it a little more of an interesting kind of desk lamp. The next project I took on was a little more challenging, because this is a full metal SVD replica, and versus the plastic pistols that I did, those you could just simply split them in half and then run the electric through it and get it working fairly simply. This one I had to completely disassemble the gun in order to get the wiring through, and since it's not a straight shot through the stock up to the barrel, it was a little more of a challenge, because it's just not a straight line all the way through, so everything had to be routed through the gun, and it took a little bit of dremeling and all that to do it. Once again, I made the power switch into the cocking lever. The pull chain runs all the way down into the receiver of the gun, and you could just operate the lamp just by pulling the pull chain up at the top of the gun as well, so you kind of can turn the light on and off one of two ways. So another possibility for a gun lamp. The next project I took on was a fairly familiar gun, which is the FN Scar. This is another plastic spring gun, so it was fairly easy to just split the gun in half and then run the parts through it. There are some things that did need to be modified, and you know, you have to remove a lot of the internal mechanisms in order to get the rod all the way through it so that it sits properly on it. But these guns that have a linear design where the barrel is in direct line with the stock are fairly simple to run a lamp post through it. So if this is something you're thinking about trying at home, you know, you might want to consider that, versus something like an AK-47 where the stock is not in direct line with the barrel. That would be a greater challenge to turn into a lamp, which is one of the guns that I will be doing in the future. Once again, we have the cocking lever light switch on it, works pretty well. And we left a lot of the other functions working on it, like the selector switch still turns and the trigger still moves and all that. So, you know, if you wanted to get a little more intricate, you could probably go in there and put a little sound effect thing in there so it actually goes bang when you pull the trigger. But this sort of being a fairly simple project, I thought I would just leave it at this. The most recent addition to the lamps that I've done is the M4 with the M203 grenade launcher on it. This is a fairly iconic kind of design for those of you that are film fans that have seen Scarface. You know, everybody's seen that My Little Friend scene. So this is a very popular kind of design. And to be perfectly honest, I actually bought this particular spring gun with the specific purpose of turning it into a lamp. This is not a throwaway gun. I did want to have the full grenade launcher with the carbine all together. Once again, the power is run all the way down into the cocking handle, so you can operate that. The trigger still functions. The selector switch still works. You know, like I said before, you could go a little further with the design if you wanted to add other functionality to it. But I think for anybody that is either a gun aficionado or just a Scarface fan, or you know, any number of reasons why you would collect something like this, it's an interesting idea that you may want to think about. Obviously, I got more lamps than I know what to do with, so I'm probably going to end up selling most of these things. So if this is something you're interested in, feel free to stop in and take a look. Generally, I'm selling them in probably around the $200 price range. But if you got something specific that you want to see if we could build or get a price on it, feel free to email us, and I'll give it a look-see and see what it would take to do it. It's just been one of those kind of interesting projects that I've gotten into, and you know, there's certainly no lack of junk guns to turn into lamps around here, so I'm sure I'm going to be doing more in the future. So stay tuned and I'll let you know what I come up with. And until the next time, don't let the bastards get you down.